My husband thought he had the perfect, dutiful wife, content with her pots and kids. He had no idea the woman he dismissed as a swamp hen was about to dismantle his entire life. The scent of freshly cut grass and overpriced charcoal hung in the air, a familiar perfume for these corporate summer parties. I smiled, a perfectly calibrated, supportive wife smile, as I handed a canapé to Mark's boss, Mr. Henderson. I even remembered that his wife, Brenda, was allergic to shellfish. "This one's just goat cheese and fig jam," I said warmly. Brenda gave me a grateful look. "See? I was good at this. I was an asset. Mark, my husband, was holding court by the state-of-the-art grill he'd insisted on buying for the occasion. He was laughing, that deep, booming laugh he used when he wanted to project confidence and success. He'd just gotten a big promotion to senior vice president, and this party was his victory lap. Our victory lap, I'd thought. I was the one who had managed the caterers, prepped the house for a week, and made sure our 2 kids, Lily and Tom, were happily occupied at my mother's so he could shine. We were a team. I drifted closer to his circle, my smile still firmly in place, ready to offer a refill or a witty aside. His back was to me, but I could hear his voice clearly over the low hum of conversation. One of his colleagues, a younger guy named Kevin, clapped him on the shoulder. "Man, you're always on the go, Mark. Don't you ever just want to stay home and relax?" Mark let out that booming laugh again. "Are you kidding? And get stuck with the pots and pans?" He took a long swig of his craft beer. "Nah, I leave that to my little swamp hen. She's happy, as long as she's stuck with the pots and the kids." The air in my lungs turned to ice. Swamp. Hen. The words hit me with the physical force of a slap. I stopped dead in my tracks, the tray of canapés suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. His coworkers chuckled, a low, sycophantic sound. They thought it was a joke, a harmless bit of husbandly ribbing. But I saw the way Mark grinned, a smug, self-satisfied curve of his lips. He meant it. That's how he saw me. Not as his partner, the woman who'd shelved her own thriving career in finance so he could pursue his. Not as the mother of his children, the manager of our household, the architect of his perfect climb-the-ladder life. I was a swamp hen, a dull, flightless bird, mired in the muck of domesticity while he soared. My face felt hot, but I kept the smile plastered on. I couldn't let them see. I couldn't give him the satisfaction of a scene. I turned on my heel, moving with a grace I didn't feel, and walked back toward the house. Each step was a silent scream. The deal we'd made echoed in my mind. 10 years ago, I was the one on the fast track. I was making more than him. My name was known in my field. But then Lily came along, and Mark got a big offer that required a lot of travel. "Just for a few years," he'd said, his eyes earnest. "You can run the home front. I'll build us a foundation. We'll be a power couple. Once the kids are in school, you can go back to whatever you want." I'd believed him. I'd traded my stock portfolio for the PTA, my quarterly reports for potty training charts, and I had excelled at it. Our home ran like a well-oiled machine. Our kids were thriving. I handled our finances, growing our nest egg with shrewd investments he didn't even understand. All of it was for us, for our future. But in his version of the story, I wasn't an equal partner. I was the hired help he happened to be married to, the swamp hen. Later that night, long after the last guest had left and Mark was snoring, blissfully unaware in our bed, I sat in the dark of my home office. The house was silent, but my mind was screaming, stuck with pots and kids. The phrase looped over and over. I opened my laptop, the glow illuminating my face. My fingers flew across the keyboard, old muscle memory kicking in. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just a distraction. I logged into our joint bank accounts, the ones I managed. Everything looked normal. Bills paid, investments ticking along. But then, a flicker of professional curiosity, a tiny thread of suspicion, made me click on the transaction history for our main checking account. And there it was. For the last 6 months, on the 15th of every month, a transfer. A large one. $5,000, precisely. It was going to an account I didn't recognize, one not linked to any of our investments or savings plans. My blood ran cold. I clicked on the most recent transfer, which had happened just yesterday. My eyes scanned the details, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. And then I saw it. The memo line had just 2 words. For the deposit. For the deposit. 2 simple words that detonated my world. My mind, the one he thought was only good for remembering PTA meeting dates and grocery lists, kicked into a gear it hadn't used in a decade. My past life as a forensic accountant came roaring back. I wasn't a swamp hen. I was a hunter, and he had just left a blood trail a mile wide. The $5,000 payments were consistent. $30,000 over 6 months. That's a significant chunk of cash to be moving around without your financially savvy wife noticing. He must have thought I was too busy with the pots and kids to ever look. The arrogance was staggering. I worked methodically through the night, fueled by a cold rage that felt more potent than coffee. I couldn't trace the receiving account number without tipping him off, so I pivoted. If he was hiding this, he was hiding other things. I pulled up our shared credit card statements. He had a separate card for business expenses, which I'd always respected as a professional boundary. Not anymore. I logged into the account, my fingers steady. And there it was. Weekly charges. Lunches at places far too intimate for a business meeting. Flowers, not for me, from a ridiculously expensive florist downtown. And then a recurring charge that made my stomach clench. A payment to a high-end interior design firm. The kind that designs minimalist lofts for bachelors, not sprawling suburban family homes. The breadcrumbs were there, leading me deeper into the woods. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when I accessed our shared cloud storage. He was usually meticulous about his files, but in his hubris, he'd gotten sloppy. A folder, innocently labeled Personal Investments, was buried 3 layers deep. My heart hammered against my ribs as I clicked it open. It was full of PDFs, real estate documents. He was buying a condo, a sleek 2-bedroom glass box in the new waterfront development. The kind of place we used to dream about before we decided we needed a backyard for the kids. My breath caught in my throat. Maybe it was just an investment, a surprise for us later. A foolish, desperate hope flickered and died as I opened the main purchase agreement. I scrolled down past the legalese, my eyes scanning for the buyer information, and there it was, in crisp, digital print. Mark T. Davis and Ashley R. Thorne. Ashley Thorne, his new star protege at the office, the one he couldn't stop talking about. She's brilliant, he'd say. So ambitious. She reminds me of you back in the day. The memory of his words was like swallowing acid. He wasn't just having an affair. He was building a whole new life, brick by expensive brick, with my replacement. He was using our money, the money I had so carefully managed and grown to fund it. I felt a strange, chilling calm settle over me. The grief and the fury were still there, simmering beneath the surface, but on top was a layer of ice. I read through the rest of the document, absorbing every detail. The closing date was in 3 weeks. They had paid the 20% down payment. The $30,000 I'd found was just the last part of it. The rest had been siphoned off in smaller, less noticeable amounts over the past year. He had been planning this for a long time. I was about to close the file, the screen blurring through a sudden film of tears, when my eyes caught another link at the bottom of the document. It was an addendum labeled Customization and Upgrade Requests. I clicked it, numbly curious to see what my replacement's taste was like. I scrolled past the choices for Italian marble countertops and hardwood flooring. Then I saw the final section, titled Structural Modifications. There was only one request. It was a formal petition to the builder, complete with architectural drawings. My gaze fell upon the description, and the last bit of air left my body. It read, Request to convert second bedroom office space into a nursery, including soundproofing, reinforced flooring for a heavy-duty crib, and installation of a full-service changing station with plumbing. A nursery. They were planning a nursery. He wasn't just replacing me, he was replacing my children. The cold, precise rage that had been simmering inside me solidified into a diamond-hard point of clarity. There would be no screaming, no throwing plates. My revenge wouldn't be a messy, emotional outburst. It would be a quiet, systematic demolition. It would be a financial audit of our entire life, and he was about to be found severely in default. For the next 3 days, I was the perfect swamp hen. I made breakfasts, packed school lunches, and smiled sweetly when Mark came home, asking about his day. All the while during the day, I was a wolf. I met with the most formidable divorce attorney in the city, a woman known for leaving cheating husbands with nothing but the lint in their pockets. I provided her with a neatly organized digital file containing every damning piece of evidence: the secret bank transfers, the credit card statements for Ashley, the condo purchase agreement in both their names, and the architectural request for the nursery, proof of financial infidelity, using marital assets to fund an affair and a new life. My lawyer's eyes practically gleamed. Next, I went to work on our finances. As the manager of our portfolio, I had full access. I systematically and legally moved exactly 50% of our liquid assets, stocks, bonds, savings, into a new trust account set up solely in my and my children's names. It was a staggering amount of money, far more than he likely realized we had, thanks to my hobby of investing. I left his half in the joint accounts, but I set up alerts for any transaction over $100. The condo, purchased with marital funds, was a shared asset. He and Ashley may have signed the papers, but I owned half of that glass box. Their new life was built on my foundation, and I was about to trigger a seismic event. The evening of our 15th wedding anniversary arrived. He'd booked a table at our favorite restaurant, the one where he'd proposed. The irony was so thick I could taste it. He was smug, relaxed, probably thinking about how he'd break the news to me after his condo closed. He handed me a velvet box. Inside was a delicate diamond necklace, a guilt gift. "Happy anniversary, babe," he said, smiling that $1 million smile. I didn't open the box. I pushed it back across the table. "I know about the condo, Mark," I said, my voice as calm and even as a quarterly earnings report. His smile faltered. "The condo? What?" "It's an investment property. A surprise for us." The lie came easily, but his eyes darted around nervously. "An investment in you and Ashley Thorne?" I continued, my gaze unwavering. "An investment with a nursery? Tell me, was I supposed to be surprised by that, too?" Every drop of color drained from his face. He looked like a cornered animal. You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. I understand the $30,000 for the deposit, the interior designer, the flowers. I understand everything." I took a sip of my water. Here's what you don't understand. As of 3 p.m. this afternoon, our liquid assets have been split. My half is secured in a trust he can't touch. Your half is still in the joint accounts, which I imagine will soon be drained by legal fees and a down payment on a condo you can no longer afford alone. He stared at me, speechless. You can't do that. I can, and I did. I leaned forward slightly. You made one critical mistake, Mark. You saw a swamp hen. You got so used to seeing me in an apron that you forgot I ever wore a power suit. You forgot that the hen managing the pots and kids was also the one who tripled our net worth while you were busy playing CEO. I stood up, my purse in my hand. You're going to be served with divorce papers tomorrow morning, and Ashley will be served with a lawsuit to recoup the marital funds you spent on her. Have a lovely dinner. I walked out of the restaurant, leaving him sitting there, a statue of broken arrogance. But I had saved my best move for last. As I slid into the driver's seat of my car, my phone buzzed. It was a reply to an email I had sent an hour earlier. It was from Mr. Henderson. My email had been polite, professional, and utterly devastating. I'd framed it as a painful personal matter that I felt obligated to disclose due to its potential impact on the company's reputation. I attached the key evidence, highlighting the affair with a junior employee and the significant financial malfeasance. Senior VPs, I noted, were held to a higher ethical standard. His reply was short and to the point. Thank you for your candor. Mark's behavior is unacceptable. A meeting has been scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Please know you and your children have our support. I drove away, the city lights blurring past. He hadn't just lost his family and his fortune tonight. He had lost his future. His victory lap was over. And me? The swamp hen was finally taking flight, with her nest, her young, and a sky full of possibilities.